What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning into another video where I interview individuals just like yourself who have an expertise, a passion, something that they want to share with the world in order to help you, maybe learn something new, hopefully entertain you, and to just make you a little bit more aware of the world around us and the people around us. So today I have a special guest. I'll let him introduce himself real quick.
I'm Jacob Moore. I study English and GIS here at UMD.
Okay. Now, what are you most excited about in life right now?
In life right now, I guess that the semester's ending. I'm about to spend the summer traveling.
Okay, where are you going to go?
I'm visiting my family in England, and then I'll be taking other trips to France and up to Sweden.
Yeah, my dad's actually from France, which I think you knew already, but
yeah.
They might not know.
It's pretty cool. He speaks pretty well.
Thank you. I grew up learning it since I was like a little kid. I remember we'd come home from elementary school and my mom would make us do like lessons, and we would hate it so much, me and my brother. But now I'm glad she made us do it.
Worthwhile.
Yeah. Now, what would you consider yourself an expert in?
I think I have a pretty good grasp of geography.
Geography?
Both human and political geography.
Okay. So for all of us who don't know anything about either of those or just geography in general, like what's the one thing that we should know about geography?
I think having, especially for people in a university setting, I think having a grasp of political geography is so important if you want to, take part in all these discourses on immigration or, the refugee crisis. It sort of goes beyond just having an opinion based on what you hear in the news. Once you sit down and you look at the numbers and the cultures of Mexico or Syria, I think you gain a better understanding of what people might be going through.
Yeah, you can't just take what the news is saying. We actually had another guest who was talking about how real is the news, and so what he said. I mean, I'll put the link up above so you guys can go check it out yourself. But he was just pretty much saying, you got to take the news with a grain of salt because they just like to put the big headlines to get our attention because it's media, that kind of thing. But
right.
I guess knowing a little bit more about geography and the political geography and everything, you got to get a better understanding for the whole picture, which I think is really important, which is one of the reasons I'm doing these videos as well, is because I want to make people more aware of the entire picture, which is the entire world. Now, if somebody wants to, learn a little bit more about political geography, that kind of thing, what's the first step? What should they do?
Honestly, get online. Wikipedia is an amazing resource, even though we're, I think told from a research standpoint that it's not the best for citing in papers. They have an incredible amount of information just on simple facts about cultures and people. Look at Google Maps, just get a feel for this world. It's pretty incredible that we're in the information age now. The world is at our fingertips, and if you can plug into that, look at maps, learn.
Yeah, so you can use Wikipedia to get the basics, the simple information. And I know people have always told me if you go to Wikipedia and you go to the bottom, it'll show you the links to where they got the information, so you can always
right.
double check yourself, kind of thing, if you want. But for the basic stuff, usually it's not a lie or anything like that. It's pretty accurate. So yeah, that's cool. Now, what is something that you're really passionate about?
Fiction writing.
Fiction writing? Okay.
Yeah.
Why so, or how so?
I guess ever since I was a kid, it's been the one thing that I've always wanted to do. So
Okay.
being able to still study it, now that I'm 21 years old, is really special to me.
So you like being able to write it more so, or do you just enjoy reading it?
Writing.
Writing?
Well, both, but
Yeah.
I've always read, so it's exciting that now I can write and not sound like a child like I did when I was writing stories in middle school.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, how does that play a role in with what you're studying and that kind of thing?
Well, my other major is English.
Okay.
And I've chosen the creative writing track
Okay.
in that regard. So, I get to take a lot of upper level fiction workshops now, which have been a lot of fun, and I get to be around people who are, have a similar interest, and it's fun to hear their ideas and sort of bounce ideas off each other.
Yeah, and I think that's really honorable that you share about this because, a lot of people think that like when you go to college, it's always about like doing like a major that you can get a job with and that kind of thing. And I mean, I'm not saying that with an English major you can't get a job, but like it's a lot harder than like if you were an engineer or something like that. And the fact that you talked about, you are excited to take these classes, you're having fun, you're excited to talk with people who are also passionate about it. Like, I find that so much more valuable that you're doing something with your time, taking classes that are important to you.
And it will be so much easier to get an A.
Yeah.
When you're taking classes that, you have an interest in.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to put in work.
That's totally true, yeah. If you're excited about what you're doing, you'll be determined to do whatever it is. Like, all the entrepreneurs who are ever successful, I'm not talking about entrepreneurs because I'm a business major, but all the entrepreneurs who are successful is because they started a business that they were passionate about first more than anything else. So that's for sure an amazing thing to share with us. That's awesome. Now, I want to end with some fun questions.
All right.
So when I say successful, who or what comes to mind?
Russian author Vladimir Nabokov.
Okay.
His book Lolita, it's pretty controversial.
Okay.
But it was the first book I read in high school that made me realize just how much fun writing can be in terms of, making prose sound lyrical.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started looking more into him, and he was regarded as one of the best authors of the 20th century, but he was also a terrible speaker, which I find funny because he is such a good writer, and I always liked that because I consider my speaking skills next to none.
Okay.
So I always, had this idea like, oh, I'm not good enough because I can't get my ideas across, but, then I look at Nabokov and he was able to get his ideas across through writing. It didn't matter that, his public speaking abilities weren't as suave.
Yeah, I think that's really important to think about because if you think about it, like, everybody has something that they want to share, something that they want to tell the world. And, somebody might tell them that the best way to do that is through public speaking or through getting a job in this or getting a job in that. And with the plethora of different things that are out there these days, the different media, different types of things like that, like, there's so many opportunities. And so you might not be good at public speaking, but you're good at writing, and, like, so there you go. That's the way that you can express what you want to do. And so I just think that's cool that the person you thought of when you think of successful is somebody who you would have thought would have been good at public speaking because he's also good at writing, but not necessarily. So it's kind of like you also can't just like make judgments based on like what you've heard or like what you first think of. So next question: if you had $1 billion, what would you trade that all for?
Probably a Nobel for literature or a Pulitzer.
Okay.
I don't know.
What is a Pulitzer? I know what a Nobel is, but
it's a similar thing of,
okay.
Like an annual prize for literature.
Okay.
So I think I've just sort of had this instilled idea of, wouldn't that be amazing to have not only a book published, but then, sort of recognized.
So speaking of Nobel Prizes, I was actually on a road trip last summer, and I was in Chicago. I don't know which university it was, but they had a Nobel Prize on display. So I'll put a link to the video up above if you guys want to check that out, but you might think that's interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about Nobel Prizes, but I was like, that sounds cool. I've heard about it like in podcasts. I should go check it out. And I mean, it's a pretty big coin. Like, it's solid. It's pretty big, so it was cool. So this is the last question. It's probably my favorite question besides the bagel or donut question, which is, if you had a billboard that you could put anywhere in the world and you could put anything on it, where would you put it and what would you put on it?
I'd put it on a college campus. Anyone. I will say University of Maryland because it's the only college I really have experience with. And I'd say, put down your phone.
Put down your phone.
At least get off Facebook.
Yeah.
Maybe that's an asterisk.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, just for my New Year's resolution, I guess, this year, I deleted social media apps from my phone, so that if I use social media, it's when I'm sitting down at a laptop, which sort of, I don't always have access to my laptop, and I don't know, I think it's really helped me not only read more, but just stop worrying about a lot of things that I was worrying about, like
That maybe
who's
weren't
doing
important.
what,
Yeah.
right? Like, it doesn't matter what, my second cousin's eating for lunch.
Yeah, I hear. And you know what? I'm really glad you shared that, because I actually, when I went to Europe on my last trip, I got robbed in Italy, and they took everything away from me. And they took like my computer, my phone, all that stuff. So I was like 2 weeks without social media, without connection to people, and I was in a foreign country. So like I didn't have any way to talk with like my normal friends and stuff. And I actually wrote a book, which I'll link a video about the book that I wrote. But I talk about the 11 life lessons that I learned from travel. And one of those lessons that I talk about is like, I don't remember how I worded it exactly, but it was like, put your phone down, challenge yourself to step away from social media for a certain amount of time, because you start to see the world differently, you start to, learn more about yourself, and like, it's just amazing. And so, definitely recommend going to check out the video about my book, not because I want you to buy the book, but because I want you to be more aware of like the impact that like travel can have on you, and in this case, specifically about, stepping away from social media. So I'm glad you brought that up, something like that. So, with that being said, there you guys go. That is another episode where I talk to individuals just like yourself, unique individuals who have a passion and expertise, something that they want to share with the world in order to make us more aware of the world around us and the people. So, if you guys enjoyed, please hit the subscribe button so you'll get a notification every time I interview somebody new. And then also, I ask that you please share this with somebody else who you think would benefit from it or who would enjoy it, because ultimately my goal is to reach as many people as possible, and I can only do that with your help. So, if you enjoyed, please hit the subscribe button, share with somebody you know, and then until next time, high five!